If you only had 1 year left of life, how would you spend it? Would you spend it with your friends, understanding yourself, or just letting the days pass you by? If you choose to make the best out of it and as busy as you could, then why don't you treat your own life the same way? After all, nobody's an eternal being. Persona gives you 1 year, not to play a game, but to live a life. You choose how to spend your time building relationships, exploring new experiences, confronting fears, or letting the days pass untouched. It mirrors the way real life quietly asks you the same question every day: what would you do with the time you have now? The series is rooted in Jung's idea of individuation, the journey of becoming your true self by understanding both your light and your shadow. Persona expresses this through its characters, its social links, and the emotional challenges you face alongside them. Every moment of grief, doubt, pressure, or loneliness becomes a reflection of real human struggles. Persona isn't just a story, it's a psychological lens. It lets you see life as showing how our choices shape who we become and how connection, honesty, and self reflection guide us toward authenticity. Shadows in the persona world represent repressed emotions and the darkness once being hold in the inner aspect. By having to confront the shadows, the game is representing the idea of confronting our repressed emotions and our darker sides to achieve the ultimate goal of authenticity and individualization. This represents real life by how we dismiss certain aspects of ourselves, such as traits, thoughts, and decisions. The power to will a persona represents the strength of one's heart, the courage to confront the parts of yourself you avoided. In the persona world, your persona grows stronger as you deepen your bonds and face your shadows. This mirrors real life. The more you connect with others and the more you confront your repressed emotions, the closer you move towards individuation. The process of becoming your true, authentic self. As your inner world grows, your foundation becomes stronger, allowing you to face life with clarity, confidence, and emotional resilience. A persona is not a weapon, it's a reflection. It grows stronger not because you fight harder, but because you understand yourself deeper. Memento Mori, a phrase in Latin translated to remember that you'll die, the core of Persona 3. In Persona 3, we are taught throughout the game the main concern of the fear to death. The game teaches us along the way that nothing in life is permanent except for the memories we build for ourselves, as well as the ones we share with others. The game implies how we let the days pass us by because we're stuck in an ideal of a past self or future instead of appreciating the present. As we cannot progress in life if we're stuck in a cycle of reminiscing, as growth is built in the present moment only. Through different alternatives, the game gives us the lesson that we need to be genuine with our approach to life and connections as we only get one chance at life. As Persona 3 focuses on the present and death, Persona 4 gives us a more focused perspective into dealing with one's truth. In Persona 4, we are focused more into different perspectives of the psyche. We are often focused on performing behind a social mask the person we think we are or the person we want to be. We are taught that we have positive as well as negative psyches and how these are not harmful as they are part of our being. The game focuses on the idea that we need to imply the negative and positive of ourselves and learn to control and separate our being and intentions from the thoughts and social pressure as authenticity and self-acceptance is the key to individualization and a path to a genuine living. Yukari represents grief that becomes identity. After losing her father, her mentor, an emotional anchor, she builds emotional walls. She hides behind confidence and carries expectations she believes he had for her. Her grief doesn't just hurt her, it shapes her. Through Yukari, Persona 3 shows how loss can turn into self protection, how expectations can become a mask, and how unresolved grief can quietly guide the way someone sees themselves and the world. Mitsuru represents the weight of social pressure. Coming from a powerful and respected family, she is raised as an image of perfection, someone who must lead, excel, and uphold her family's legacy. In chasing these expectations, she forgets to live for herself and instead lives for the role she was assigned. Mitsuru shows us how outside pressure can shape identity, how perfection becomes a mask, and how living for expectations instead of authenticity can disconnect us from our true self. Michael represents the emotional distress of a child caught in the middle of a failing marriage. She becomes a quiet victim of her parents' conflict, forced to carry emotions that were never meant for her. Her story shows the reality of children who are pushed to grow too fast, losing pieces of their childhood because their environment demands emotional strength they shouldn't have to carry. Unable to find comfort at home, she searches for a space outside, showing how children often escape to protect themselves from trauma they can't control. Agus represents the struggle of identity and purpose. Designed as a machine meant only to protect and serve, she begins to develop emotional awareness, something her programming never accounted for. Yet this awakening comes with pain. She argues that she is seen as an object rather than a person, creating a deep sense of self doubt and confusion about her purpose. Aga's story reflects the reality of how external perceptions can shake our foundation, how being defined by others can distort our self worth, and how searching for purpose becomes difficult when the world refuses to see your identity. Yosuke represents the struggle of self worth, shaped by external validation. After moving from the city to a small town, he feels the need to stand out, to be special, enough for others to appreciate him. Yosuke creates unrealistic expectations for himself, believing he must achieve something extraordinary just to matter. The reality of shrinking ourselves to fit in, chasing approval to feel valuable. Yosuke shows us that fulfillment doesn't come from being accepted by others. It comes from recognizing the value we already hold within ourselves. Nanako mirrors the quiet suffering of a child who carries emotions she cannot express. After losing her mother and being raised by a father who is physically present but emotionally absent, she seeks comfort in small routines and distractions to avoid the grief she doesn't know how to process. Nanako represents the reality of childhood trauma, emotions too heavy for a child to understand, loneliness that feels normal because it's constant, and the silent belief that she isn't seen or heard. She avoids her pain through external comforts, yet every day is spent in an emotional void that deepens her loneliness. Nanako shows us how solitude can turn into isolation, how distractions become a shield against grief, and how repressing our emotions only hurt us more when we're unable to sit with sadness, longing, and despair. Her story reflects how we often choose immediate comfort over long-term healing. We spend so much of our lives trying to fit in, chasing approvals, and shaping ourselves around outside judgment. When we don't learn to live for ourselves, forgive who we used to be, understand our emotions, and grow into our genuine identity, life starts slipping by in a version that isn't really ours. The struggle Persona shows us aren't exaggerated. They're real life human battles: grief, loneliness, pressure, self doubt, loss of identity. In real life, we often ignore our inner world, acknowledging only the surface while fighting against the part of ourselves we don't want to face. That creates fragmentation, a split between who we are and who we pretend to be. We chase validation, repress emotions, avoid our past, and disconnect from our present self. Individuation, becoming whole, isn't a trophy. It's the process of accepting every part of our humanity. Persona gives the struggles a face, a voice, and a story, reminding us that our flaws aren't failures. They're pieces of ourselves waiting to be understood. Persona not only represents these struggles through its characters, but also through its lyricism, the emotional language that turns psychological conflict into poetry. This verse reflects the moment that life collapses and forces us into a new beginning. It suggests that even when things fall apart, what truly matters is the imprint we left behind. Authenticity, the growth, meaning we create despite the chaos. It's a call to rise from fragmentation and shape the world through our presence.
When there's a beginning, there's an ending too. As we go away, come across many predicaments.
This verse acknowledges the inevitability of endings, relationships, faces, identities, and versions of ourselves. It highlights how life is defined by constant challenges and how each predicament becomes a stepping stone towards maturity. It's a reminder that endings aren't a failure, they're a transition that pushes forward.
Standing by for instance, shouting is the
This verse captures the human tendency to search for external validation, explanations to soothe internal pain, but waiting for answers from outside only prolongs suffering. True healing comes from confronting ourselves and not escaping it. Growth comes from when we stop waiting and start facing what hurts.
From the heart what reaches to the sky. Ups and downs, it goes for years up and needs on the right.
This verse emphasizes that genuine progress comes from living authentically, from the heart. Life rises and falls, but its fluctuations are temporary. The song encourages embracing the journey, accepting both joy and hardships, finding meaning in the ride itself rather than fearing its unpredictability.
Question, no answers, will this be for nothing? I felt so subordinate and nervous, disgusting.
This verse dives raw into the experience of self-doubt, the fear that our efforts are meaningless, that we're inadequate, and that growth is impossible. It reflects the emotional collapse that comes with insecurity and self-loathing. Yet by expressing this darkness, the song acknowledges feelings are part of the process of becoming.
Exploring Italy is long good time. No one should need it for me to a way of life.
This verse encourages exploring life fully within the time given. It rejects the idea that we need permission, societal approval to live authentically. Growth is personal, self-defined, and free from external expectations. It's a call to claim our own path without apology.
Moment of truth, there ain't no truth. You're the only one world, one love. But the battle goes on, shadows all mass destruction.
This verse captures a psychological reality that our most defining battles are internal. No truth reflects constant confrontation with our destructive impulses, insecurities, and unresolved trauma. The line, "You're the only one," emphasizes existential solitude. The truth that self-understanding and self-repair cannot be outsourced. The shadows of mass destruction symbolize the darker part of the psyche, the fear, the impulses, and the wounds that threaten to destabilize us if left unexamined. It's a reminder that inner work is lifelong and growth requires continuous self-awareness.
Fears cut deep within the gun wounds. You can put your fate, destiny into the tomb.
First exposes fear as a psychological force more damaging than physical harm. Fear doesn't just hurt, it paralyzes. It buries potential, suffocates ambition, and kills identity before it can fully form. Tom symbolizes the emotional death that occurs when fears dictate our lives. Dreams abandoned, opportunities avoided, and a self that never evolves. It's a warning that fear is not just an emotion. It's a barrier to destiny, capable of breaking a future before it begins.
All that stands to do is changing who you are now to who you wanna be soon.
First reflects the psychological tension of the present self, the ideal self. Changes requires confronting part of us we avoided, the habits, beliefs, and wounds keeps us stuck. The difficulty not lies in becoming someone new, but in letting go of who we currently are. It requires discomfort, vulnerability, and the willingness to dismantle from familiar versions of ourselves. It's a reminder that transformation is not a moment, continuous, painful, and deeply human process.
First enemies inside us already.
This verse reveals the core of persona's psychological theme, shadow. Part of the psyche we denied, repressed, or fear as her first and greatest enemy. It represents the internal conflict between who we are and who we pretend to be. This verse suggests that external threats are secondary. The real danger lies in the unexplored self. Our insecurities, impulses, and unresolved pain create an internal resistance that shapes our behavior and limits our growth. Understanding the self is the first step to defeating the enemy within.
Thirsty for blood, actually craving for love.
This verse exposes the psychological distortion that happens when emotional needs go unmet. Blood symbolizes destructive impulses, anger, aggression, and self-sabotage. But beneath that violence is that craving for connection. When the cycle represses vulnerability, it changes into darker urges. The verse reveals how avoidance creates an emotional void that leads into harmful actions and habits. At its core, it's about the human need to be seen, understood, and to express authenticity. Yet the fear of change keeps us from giving ourselves the love we seek from others. This verse reflects in the pursuit of external validation, status, achievements, and comparison that numbs the inner self. Greed isn't just material, it's the hunger to be more than we currently are. That same hunger blinds us from the present moment and numbs us from gratitude. The psyche begins to block positive thoughts because it threatens the idea of not being enough. Self-sabotage disguises ambition, and it's a reminder that chasing an idolized version of ourselves can destroy the real us.
Some things may break me, but always get back out. New perspective gain from all the pain and stress.
This verse captures the resilience born from suffering. Pain fractures the self, but those same fractures create a window for a new perspective. Growth doesn't come from avoiding hardships, it comes from surviving them. This verse teaches that emotional waves are inevitable, but they are not presence. We are meant to feel them, learn from them, and rise with a clear understanding of who we are. It shapes the idea that adversity shapes us, not to weaken us, but to refine our identity.
And when I do come back, I'm stronger than ever before.
We can interpret this verse as the revert that follows from confronting the inner self. Strength here isn't physical, it's emotional clarity, self-awareness, and the courage to continue evolving. It reinforces the truth that returning from hardship means returning transformed. This verse reminds us that we pass life as temporary guests, here for a moment, gone before the world even notices. Our time is limited, yet the heart remains boundless. The connections we make, the love we give, and the emotions we share become the quiet marks we leave behind. Prove that our presence matters in a world that never stops moving.
Can't get my mind out of those memories. Now time to tell them, don't take my dream.
This verse reflects how the past can trap us into a version of ourselves that no longer exists. When memories become too vivid, they pull us away from the present and the people around us. It shows us how clinging into who we used to be creates an emotional absence, a gap between our current self and the life unfolding in front of us.
The music keeps on tuning me from the worlds that hurt my soul, removing that from my mind.
This verse reveals how we use distractions, noise, routines to keep us away from having to confront our inner fears. Music becomes a shield, turning us away from the memories and words that still hurt us. It reflects the fear or facing our inner world, the habits and traits we built to protect us from emotional wounds. Yet beneath the avoidance is the truth that healing requires for us to confront our biggest fears. Only by facing those memories can we remove the doubts that are stopping us from becoming whole.
Change your way, smart way to come. You know the stake is hot, start down this here.
This verse reflects how overwhelming emotions can push us into impulsive reactions that sabotage our growth. It reveals the intention between our raw intensity and the wiser internal self we're trying to become. When we react instead of respond, we risk losing the identity we're shaping. First reminds us that emotional control isn't about suppressing what we feel. It's about transforming that energy into a purpose, something that moves us forward rather than hold us back.
I reach out to the truth all my life, seeking to see all the whole moment to now break away.
This verse echoes the moment a person stops hiding behind a mask and begins searching for who they truly are. It captures the emotional liberation that comes from confronting both inner and outer self without fear. By reaching for truth, we reclaim the present moment and allow ourselves to live fully instead of performing.
Oh, God, let me out. Can you let me out? Can you set me free from this that in the world?
This verse symbolizes the suffocating experience of being trapped inside your own mind, the darkness that comes from fear, the self-doubt, and unresolved pain that builds up inside of us. It reflects the desperation to escape the part of ourselves we're afraid to see. The plea for someone to let us out reveals how often we look for external comfort to save us from internal battles.
Get up on your feet, teeth down the world. Get your glee and all the whole world.
This reflects the moment we wake up living behind an image that we build for ourselves. The emotional walls we hide behind, the routines, the habits, Distractions we use to avoid our overwhelming feelings. By tearing those walls down, we finally see the hollow world we've been trapped in. A life shaped by instant comfort instead of long-term fulfillment. It's a call to step out of avoidance into authenticity.
We all trumpet a maze of relationships. Life goes on with or without you.
This verse captures how relationships can feel like a maze. Complex, fulfilling, confusing, and sometimes painful. It reminds us that even within maze, relationships are what gives our lives meaning. When our time in this world ends, remains are the impressions and left on others. The presence we offer, the love we share, and the memories we built. Life continues, but the marks we leave through our relationships become our lasting echo and the proof of our presence in this world.
You are standing in the middle of another world. It's hard to feel your real emotions.
This verse reflects the disconnection that forms when we build our identity around a social image. The comfort and pressure of being seen by a society lead us from drifting apart from who we really are. Standing in another world symbolizes a sad version of an image we created for ourselves based on pressure and expectations rather than authenticity. This verse reflects how the more we hide behind a social image to fit in or to feel seen, the more we drift apart from ourselves and our beliefs. Change forces to confront the part of ourselves that we avoid, such as fears, insecurities, vivid memories. But the reality is simple. Staying the same hurts even more. Staying behind a social image, chasing acceptance, external validation, slowly destroy who we really are meant to become. We aren't truly living when we're hiding. We aren't truly growing when we're performing. We aren't ourselves when we fear to be authentic. Authenticity isn't easy. It requires sacrifice, honesty, discomfort, but it's the only path that leads to real fulfillment. When we choose to live for ourselves rather than social expectations, we reclaim our identity. We stop fearing judgment and start chasing the goals that matter. We stop living for approval and we start living for meaning. Life is short, shorter than we think, and most of us have spent too much of it worrying about external validation and external judgment, when in reality, the only validation we shall seek is the one we hold in ourselves. When our time finally runs out, our life shouldn't sound like, I should have done this, I should have said that. I wish I could have talked to this person. Life should sound like gratitude. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for the time I had. I felt as my life was fulfilled. I enjoyed every second I was able to have. I built great connections, and I know I will live past my decaying body and the marks that I left in those same relationships that I forged. The real pursuit to life isn't validation, isn't pursuit. It, it's the realization that the only validation we shall seek is the one we hold for ourselves, as we shouldn't have to perform just to fit in. It takes more courage to be authentic than to live by an image in a world that only accepts what it doesn't fear. As we only have one chance at life, we should just enjoy it. Be present, forgive our past selves, not look too much into the future, as we cannot grow if we're not shaping the moment. The reality is, we only have one chance at life. We're not eternal beings. We have such a short amount of time in this world. So why not just enjoy it?